David Edward and Stefan Ralph discuss Stefan's book, Dusks and Dawns.
Steve, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Very good. It's good to talk to you again.
Nice to talk to you too.
So, Steve, I woke up in the middle of the night last night and it was dark, and a little bird was in my window and it said that you had written a book.
Was it a blackbird?
It was a blackbird, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So, what is your book about?
It starts out about a young teenage boy. He's growing up in a very religious town, and there's all kinds of stories about, you got to keep the faith. You can't wander from town. You got to, stay under, God's control, because the devil's out there, and if you sin too much, he's going to come and he's going to bring his demons. He's going to invade our town, and it's happened before. Jacob's grandfather swears by this.
I'll say you describe it as a bizarre mashup of horror, science fiction, and dark comedy.
Yes, so it's kind of like Children of the Corn, Hills of Eyes kind of thing. The Village, only that there's greater world building. Like I said, if you've seen the movie The Village, it kind of ends abruptly when they find out that it's not a medieval town.
Oh,
it's,
yep.
In society, but it's kind of like that, except there's more world building. Like I said, hell is this society, and it's controlled by the Dark Lord, and there's 5 demonic families, and they're all born. They have demonic powers, but it's more like a sci-fi. It's not a fantasy. Like they're
Wow.
born without, say, one family, the Andersons. They're born without eyes, so they have a intense hearing. They can hear things from 100 miles away, and that's how they spy on New Hope and hell to
Wow.
keep everything in line.
Is it scary? What do you say? Or I mean, what is it? A thriller?
It's got a creepy vibe to it, but
Yeah.
it is a dark comedy, so I keep it light, and
Okay.
it does get graphic. And when something bad happens to somebody, it goes into detail. So
Okay.
it can get graphic, but again, it's there's a lot of dark comedy. I keep it light, and it's got the creepy vibe to it. It's not a slasher thing. It's more of a psychological thriller.
So what inspired you? I mean, are you just describing your childhood, or what inspired you to take on a topic like? I mean, first off, it sounds interesting, and I'm curious. I want to explore the world building a little bit in a second, but what inspired you to take on the task of writing a book like this?
Well, what inspired me the most is I read a lot, and I read a lot of older books. I like to read old sci-fi because it's just certain thing, when people predict the future and you see how it works out, and it usually doesn't. But I like reading stuff like that. But I don't watch a lot of TV and movies anymore because everything was redone, either a remake or something beat to death. Like everything's about vampires and zombies and cops and lawyers. And maybe this one's about a vampire that's a cop or a lawyer, and it just gets regurgitated so much. And I thought, how hard would it be to come up with something original, something nobody's ever done before? And I thought, well, if you think it's possible, why don't you try it? And that's what I did. So I just started. I always had this concept in the back of my mind about this town secluded, and then the hell that surrounds them, and it was something I always thought of. It just
So walk us all through. There was somewhere in all of this. There was a morning you woke up and you said, "Today's the day," and you started. I assume you wrote this on a computer, and then you wrote the first paragraph. What happened that day? Because you had all this up here. What was it that prompted you to actually start the process to get it out into the world?
Well, I do construction too, and I was far away. I think in Alberta, and I was in a isolated work camp, and there was no way to go to town. I was miles away. Couldn't even have a beer. It's like a dry camp. Like I call them prison camps. And there was a gym there, and usually I try to stay in shape, but I actually injured my shoulder. So I thought, okay, well, I'm going to be here for months. What am I going to do? And I thought, well, you always thought about writing a book. So, and then I thought, well, we'll see how it goes. And then after the first chapter, it just started flowing out of me.
Yeah.
And,
what were you logging? What was the work?
I was construction, like I do pipe fitting. So it was
Okay.
yeah, working in the refineries sort of thing out in
Wow.
out in the nowhere.
And then did you write with paper and pen, or did you write on a computer?
No, it was on my laptop.
Laptop?
Yeah, and like I said, the first chapter went well, and then the whole concept, like I said, where you got New Hope is the pious town, religious, but it's got a dark underbelly, and and then you got hell. That's where all the exciting stuff's going on. People live in a society where they kind of torture people for a living, like 9 to 5, and kids go to school, and they grow up to want to marry a demon because demons are the royalty. They're the cool guys, right?
Right.
And, so I thought, well, I want to get to the interesting part about hell, but then most stories are written in a way that it builds up, and then the end, you get to the good stuff.
Right.
And I didn't want to do that because not only is that not fun to read, but it's very boring to write. So like I said, when I did the first chapter, I did New Hope, and then I did the second chapter jumps right into hell. And it's like, okay, this is real. And how do these two towns coincide? What's the secret? And that's the big question, because the story as it unfolds, it becomes part of a bigger picture. Like I don't know if you know, but this is a 6-part series. And the first book is basically an introduction to all the characters, all the people that live in New Hope, all the people that live in hell, the hierarchy there. And then the big question is, how do these two towns coincide? And there's all kinds of clues and hints, but you got to keep reading into it. You notice right away that the time zones are different. Like instead of 24 hours, well, it's 24 hours, but instead of say 12 hours a day and 12 hours a night, they got 6 hours a day, and then it's dark for 6 hours, and then another 6. So they got these 6-hour cycles, and people are probably thinking, well, what's up with that? Is New Hope on a post-applicable Earth? Is this, maybe on another planet? Is this maybe something going on in somebody's mind? Is the whole, so this is something that you got to read into, and it unravels.
That's
the more you
interesting.
read into it, the more clues you get, and then you get closer to the answer. But it doesn't really explain everything until the very end. But and the 6th book, and I wrote all 6 of them because I kind of had to, because I had this big story to tell, but it
Right.
took so long. It was like 700,000 words or something, so I had to chop it up. First, I chopped it into 3, and that was still too big for a new writer. You got to have smaller books, and
I think
I
so.
chopped it up
Yeah.
into 6.
Interesting.
But when you get to the 6th book, now you realize that this series was just a tip of an iceberg. It kind of opens up a whole universe. And I compare it to something like Frank Herbert's The Dune Saga. When you read the first Dune book, that's the middle of the story, and then it jumps ahead a few thousand years, and then it goes back thousands of years, and then it becomes full circle. And then you got what I call like a saga. And that's basically what I'm trying to accomplish here, because I got 5 more series that will explain the whole story.
Wow.
And,
Yeah, it reminds me, I'm thinking, I'm kind of into Warhammer right now. And it's kind of like the same thing. Warhammer is just this huge, epic with all kinds of places to go. And some of the stuff you started to describe about the hierarchies and all that stuff, that's really fascinating world building. How long, so have you written all 6 books?
I did. I wrote 6 books. Like I said,
Wow.
I had to get the whole story out, because nothing's worse than, you write the first book,
Oh,
and then
yeah.
you write the 4th book, and you're like, I probably should have said that in book 1, but it's already published. You can't
Right.
take that.
Right.
So you don't want to write yourself into a corner. So I wrote all 6, and then I just chopped them up into little
Nice.
installments.
Nice. How long did it take to write all 6?
I'd say it took almost 5 years.
Wow.
But that's part-time. Like I said, I was
Sure. Yeah.
doing construction, raising a young family, and just whatever spare time I had, I would just
Wow.
jump on there religiously and just, kind of plug at it.
Yeah.
Try to get out as much as I could. And
So did you have a special place where you would write? I mean, do you have to write when it's
No.
quiet? Did you write in front of the TV? Was the kid screaming?
mostly I was on the road with the construction I do. I end up in different towns miles away from home.
Got it.
I'm rarely home with my family, but I wouldn't go out and party. With,
Just do your downtime, right? Your downtime.
on my downtime, yes,
Yeah.
I spent writing, and even when I came home, I try to spend time with the family, but I'd still try to plug in a few hours of writing a day just to get the story done and finished, because once I started, it just the characters started to make a life of themselves, and they wanted to come to life, and I just had to keep
Yeah, look, I'm the same way. I've got my little stories, my books behind me, and for my thrillers, I just finished the 4th book, and I wanted to take a break before I write the fifth book, but it just gnaws at you, right? Because you know it's in your head, and there's, I don't know what it is. It's just, but you gotta get it out, and I don't know. I don't even know what the word is. I get anxious, maybe. I don't know, but I really, I'm just really pushed to get it out. I couldn't imagine trying to write all 6 books at once, though. Did you outline any of this, or did you just have the outline in your head, or how did you organize
that's
it all?
the thing. It was a big outline, and I just kept writing and writing till the story was finished. I wasn't really sure how it was going to end or exactly. I had a pretty good idea, but it sort of had to play itself out. And I'm not sure if I'll do that with the next series. I just started the next series, which will be connected to this first series in a minor way, but it'll go hundreds of years. It's kind of going to be like an origin story.
Okay.
So explain more about New Hope and Hell and how this place came to be. And
it's very intricate stuff. It'll
I think I might do that one at a time, but I might do the same thing. I'm not sure. Like I said, I have a pretty good scope about it.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure how many books are going to come out of it. It could be 3 books, could be just a 2-book thing. It could be another 6. I don't know. It just kind of,
well, this other one,
I guess.
You started off with 1 book and you wound up with 6. So if you're shooting for 3 now, it'll probably be 9.
I knew at some point, even probably halfway, that it was going to be more than 1 because it was just becoming so huge. And I was like, wow, I got 400,000 words, and it's like I feel like I'm only half done. So
did you ever worry about like losing what did you write it in like Microsoft Word kind of thing or something like that?
Yeah, I backed it up on
Constantly.
flash drives and on separate computers and Google Docs, everything, just because that was my biggest fear.
Right. Yeah.
Because like you said, it was pretty epic saga, or that I just started, and to lose all that, and I wouldn't been able to start over. I would have just said, you know what, this is never coming out, I guess.
You would have encountered what we call depression.
Yeah, like I've lost a couple chapters by accident before.
Yeah,
and that's pretty devastating enough, because I don't know if you know the feeling when you've done a chapter and it feels like, wow, that came out perfect.
Yeah, and
then to actually have to do it again, it's like you remember most of it, but it's never the same, is it?
No, I did it one time. I backed myself up everywhere. And one time I did that. I was editing, and I don't even know what I did. I screwed something up, and I lost like a chapter. And I kept going back and looking for it. I'm like, well, where is it? And then I had to rewrite it, and no one would ever know, but I know. And the joy of rewriting it is 0, but the joy of writing it is like 100. So it's just, and you feel. You kind of feel stupid. I just, I was like confused. So
now, even like accidentally deleting a couple paragraphs was devastating to me, because like I said, it just flows out of me, and I try to recreate that. I don't know if I could. I mean, obviously I had to, and sometimes I think, that actually turned out a bit better because I added a few more things to it. And,
but you lost all the time, because it's always
the time is precious.
Now, when you wrote it, would you go back and reread what you had written to kind of get into the scene? Or I mean, how did, because
I would constantly. That was the thing with me. I would every time I did a chapter, I would in my spare time, if I wasn't writing, I was editing, self-editing and stuff like that.
That's how I do it. I have to write in the morning, and then on my iPad I'll read it in the evening or at night, because I'm a couple hours away from it, and then you find all the little mistakes, and like you said, like okay, if I'm going to have him do this or her do that, I need to set it up. So then I'll go back and kind of, and if I do that and then I sleep on it, then the next day I'm like, my subconscious, I guess, works. And then I'm like, just, guns blazing, and I'm good to go. So did you ever, 5 years is a long time. Did you ever get stuck, or did you ever have to go back and make like major revisions, or how did that work?
No, there was a couple times I thought, well, okay, is this plot going to work out? Because I had to work out a few twists here and there, a few plot twists. And, but other than that, I never had any writer's block. And like I said, I got plans for 5 more series.
Yeah, wow,
and
that's awesome.
My problem is I don't have the time to get it all out. Like I said, it just flows out of me, and I have all these ideas, and I just want to get it out there. My problem to me is the time factor. I'm just trying to find time, and hopefully if this takes off, then I'll have more time to write. But as it is, it's my first book, and I just started marketing it. So I still have to work the 9-to-5 thing. I still got to do the family thing. And when I have time to write, it just comes out. I just need more time to do it. That's all.
It can take. I talked to someone else who's very successful, way more successful than I am, and they had their first book out for over a year before it like caught on and took off. And unfortunately, yeah, you got to do things like this, and you got to start marketing it because there's a lot of other book covers out there that people can choose from. So it's been out for what, 2 months ish, 3 months, I guess, 3 months ish, 2.5. Has anything surprised you about the reception of it?
Well, like it hasn't got much reception yet because it's still out there, and I'm trying to I'm using advertising, obviously, and I got I think my biggest thing I've been doing is TikTok. Like if you go to my website, and I spent a lot of time and money on the website.
I saw that the website
is pretty interesting.
It's awesome.
It's got the social media links, and I've been doing a lot of videos, and I've been gaining followers and stuff like that. And I've been having fun with it. You know what I mean? It is kind of a fun tool, and it's free advertising. So I haven't been spending a lot of time with that, and it's slowly gaining traction. But I've had a few book reviews, and
all good. You know, I looked at them.
5-star, and I thought, oh, great. And then the next one was not as good. I had the 3 stars, but she gave it a really good review. She's like, oh, this was all great. But at the very end, it looked like she was kind of offended by some of the jokes. And like I said, it's a dark comedy, and there's nobody that gets picked on. It's just
right.
I don't know what she might have found personally offensive or whatever, but
humor, right? I mean, in the world we live in now, humor. Yeah.
Well, that's it. I mean, look what happened to poor Chris Rock. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's tough.
Humor is a dangerous game, I guess, these days. And
it's just hard. It's just hard. Yeah. Well, so when someone does find it and read it, and I'll put links to it below this podcast. Hopefully this helps a little bit. What is it you want them to get out of it? What is the reading experience for someone who picks up these books?
I just hope they want the next installment, because the first one ended with a bit of a cliffhanger, but not too much, drastically, because nobody wants to be frustrated by that, especially if you don't come out with the second one right away. But basically, I want to draw people in now, get a good fan base, and I got the other 5 books kind of in the bank, but I'm hoping this is gonna get a bit of payback and get a fan base before I just start pumping these things out. So basically, now I just want to get people to want the second one to come out soon.
Right. Good. Okay, so let's we're going to wrap it up. But what I like to do, I mean, so you're a prolific writer. I mean, 700,000 words across 6 books, and just the scope of this. If there's someone watching this who is maybe in the position you were a couple years ago, and they're trying to refine their writing process, or maybe they've got a book out and they're working on their second book, or they're still working on the first book. What advice would you have for someone who was writing and is looking to finish the book and get it out?
Yeah, I guess my first thing would be to tell them to dive right into it. I did that myself, and I'm glad I did. It changed my life. Yeah. And I'm not sure what advice to give people that might have trouble getting the book out, because like I said, with me, it just came so naturally. And like I said, the characters just took a life of their own and kind of wrote a story for themselves. And I felt like I was just typing it for them,
I think that's your advice. And I have at times been lucky enough to have that happen too. If I were to take from what we've just talked about, I think your advice is type, right? Yeah. Type.
Yeah. Just keep typing and get it out there, and then you can revise it later. And, like I said, I got kind of stuck on a few twists and turns here, but all 6 books, the whole series, it all worked out in the end. And even when I was halfway or 3/4 away, I said, is this going to work out? Is this whole story going to come full circle? And it did, and it wasn't easy, but I just never gave up, and I, just kept going.
Yeah. Well, that's what they say. They say a professional author. The difference between a professional author and an amateur is that it's a professional is an amateur that doesn't quit, right? Yeah. The other thing I think that you kind of alluded to is if you're having a problem getting this out and you're stuck, you probably picked the wrong story or the wrong characters, because if it all lines up, it writes itself. It really, really writes itself. You have to respect the characters. You have to you have to give them the information they need to take the story where it needs to go. But it'll make good characters, good decisions, and an interesting and compelling story, and
Yeah.
it should just write itself. And if it doesn't, then the problem is probably structural with the story and the characters, not your ability to write. I think that's the other thing I kind of got from our conversation. So
Yeah, I think if your characters are well fleshed out and they got a good backstory and they got their little quirks and personalities,
Yeah.
then their interactions with the other characters will just, like you said, write itself. So
write yourself, absolutely.
I guess if there's any advice is to make sure your characters are, treat them like real people. And that's what I did. And, some of them died. And, when they did, I felt like I lost something, what
I
mean?
know. It's, yeah.
Characters were like part of my life for like 4, almost 5 years. And in the end, I don't want to do any spoilers, but a lot of people die, and it was heartbreaking,
Yeah. Well, and I watched, I'm doing these videos because I watched like every video there was. And there was one I watched with Stephen King, and someone asked him, well, how do you pick what you want to write next? And he said, I pick a place where I want to spend some time. And when I first heard it, I was like, that's the stupidest thing I ever heard. This guy's an idiot. Click. And now that I've done it, it's like, okay. Because I'll sit over here in silence and write for 2 hours. And then I go and talk to my wife, and I'm like all jazzed, like all this stuff is going on. But nothing's going on. It's just all in my head because I'm writing. So yeah, I think that's wildly interesting. Well, Steve, look, it's been a real pleasure talking to you. And I think these are really interesting books. I hope they catch on. If you want, we can catch up when some of your other ones come out. We can talk about those. And if there's anything that you've learned or changed in your writing process, and see what's going on.
I like that.
All right. Very good, my friend. Thank you, sir. Bye.
Thank you too. Bye now.
Thank you for watching. Please consider hitting the subscribe button.